She warmed rice without asking. That's what my sister-in-law said, sipping wine, while my mother stood outside, barefoot and shaking in the cold. I wasn't supposed to come home that night. But I did. And what I saw changed everything I thought I knew about family, loyalty, and silence. It was a Tuesday. Rain tapped against my windshield like nervous fingers. I had driven 4 hours without telling anyone, not even my brother, that I was coming home. Mom hadn't answered my last few calls, and something in my gut felt off. She always answered, even if just to say, "I'm fine, Beta. Just tired." But not this week. It was nearly 10:30 p.m. when I pulled into the driveway. The lights were on. Laughter floated out from the dining room, crystal clinks, a TV humming. Normal things. Except for one. Outside on the front porch, hunched near the door, was my mother. Wrapped in nothing but a thin shawl. Her feet bare. Her hands trembling. She didn't see me at first. I rushed out of the car, heart in my throat. "Mom? What? Why are you out here?" She blinked. Her lips were blue. She smiled, and said, "It's okay. I was just resting." I didn't want to disturb anyone. I knelt down, wrapped my jacket around her. Inside, through the window, I saw them. My sister-in-law lounging with a wine glass. My brother scrolling on his phone. And the door? Locked. I helped Mom into the car, turned the heat on, gave her a bottle of water. She kept insisting it was no big deal. But then she said it, soft, embarrassed. I warmed some rice for myself. She got angry. Said I didn't ask. I apologized. But she said the kitchen wasn't mine. Then she said, "Go get some air." And the door, it locked. Asterisk. She hadn't been outside for 10 minutes. She had been out there for over an hour. In winter. In her 60s. Barefoot. I didn't knock. I didn't breathe. I walked in through the back door. There they were. My sister-in-law, laughing at a reality show. My brother, barely looking up. She smiled. "Oh, you're here. What a surprise." I said nothing. Walked to the fridge. Grabbed the bowl of rice. It was half-eaten. Still warm. She warmed rice without asking, she said casually, sipping her wine. Like it was a crime. Like my mother was a burden. My brother followed me into the hallway. "She's being dramatic," he muttered. "She likes attention. Don't blow this up, okay?" He said it like I was about to ruin his peace. Like locking your own mother outside was something we were supposed to overlook. I didn't raise my voice. Didn't scream. I just looked at him and said, "I won't blow it up." And I didn't. Cliffhanger ending. I did the unthinkable. I didn't blow it up. I did something else. The next morning, before anyone woke up, I helped Mom pack a single suitcase. And while they were still sleeping, we left. But that wasn't the unthinkable part. What I did after we left, that was what no one saw coming. They locked my mother outside in the winter for warming rice and told me not to blow it up. So I didn't scream. I didn't fight. I just helped her pack and left before sunrise. But what came next wasn't revenge. It was something quieter and far more permanent. Mom didn't ask where we were going. She didn't protest, didn't cry. She just sat in the passenger seat, staring at her hands, like she was trying to fold her dignity into something smaller, something that would fit inside a suitcase. We drove to my apartment 2 hours away. I gave her my room. She hesitated at first. I don't want to cause trouble, Beta. But I insisted. Because she had been living in that house like a guest for too long. Over the next week, the pieces unraveled. Mom confessed things she had hidden from me for years. That she had to ask before using the kitchen. That she was expected to clean quietly but never join dinners. That she'd been told, multiple times, this isn't your house. You're just here because of your son. And that my sister-in-law had once told her, with a smile, I'm not cold, Auntie. You just don't belong here. My mother never told me because she thought this was normal. That aging meant shrinking. Day 3. He called. Didn't ask about Mom. Didn't ask if she was okay. Just, you made a scene. She's upset. Are you happy now? And when I didn't answer, he said, Mom's not a victim. She needs to learn boundaries. Boundaries? For warming rice? I hung up and began quietly preparing what they never expected. Here's what my sister-in-law didn't know. The house was in my late father's name. The bills? Still partly in my mother's name. The will gave my mother residential rights, legally untouchable. She was not a guest. She was the legal co-owner of that house. And I had the documents to prove it. Scene, I called a lawyer. Not to sue. Not to fight. But to transfer my father's shares directly into my mother's name. The house was now hers. Fully. Quietly. Legally. And neither my brother nor his wife could contest it. Because they never thought she had any power. Because they never asked what was in her name. They assumed she was invisible. 2 weeks later, my brother received a letter. It was not from me. Not from a court. Just a formal notice from the new title holder of the home. You are hereby given 30 days to vacate the property. Residential ownership has been legally transferred. He called me. Panic in his voice. You're kicking us out? I said, calmly. No. Mom is. Her final line. They moved out in silence. No court battle. No noise. And as my sister-in-law walked out the door with her wine glasses packed in bubble wrap, my mother, in the doorway now, simply said, next time you call someone a guest in their own home, make sure it's not the person who owns the keys. They locked her outside in the cold, told her she didn't belong in the house her husband built. But now, she owned it. And when they walked out, boxes in hand, it wasn't with rage. It was with realization. The woman they thought had no voice spoke with a deed. The house was quiet again. Mom sat by the window, sipping tea. She didn't say much. She never gloated, never raised her voice. But her presence filled the walls like sunlight. Warm, permanent. There was a strength in her silence, like she had waited her whole life to finally just exist. It didn't take long for neighbors to notice the shift. Mrs. Kapoor next door dropped by with mangoes and said, "I haven't seen you smile like this in years." And Mom just chuckled. Feels good to not walk on eggshells in my own kitchen. That one sentence, it carried decades of exhaustion. She wasn't looking for applause, just peace. Her 65th birthday came 2 months later. I planned something small, flowers, a cake, a few close friends. But something happened that I didn't expect. My brother showed up, alone. No gifts. Just a folded letter in his hand and a look in his eyes I hadn't seen since childhood, shame. He didn't speak during dinner. Didn't touch the cake. Just waited until the plates were cleared. Then walked over, knelt beside Mom, and said, "I'm sorry, Amy. I should have protected you. I let someone else make you feel like you didn't belong." She didn't cry. Didn't forgive him instantly. Didn't say it was okay. She placed a gentle hand on his cheek and said, "What you allow around you reflects what you believe you deserve. You deserve better too, Beta. Learn to choose it." And just like that, she gave him something he hadn't earned, but still needed: a second chance. 1 week later, I found her in her room with legal papers spread across the bed. She was updating her will. I asked, "Do you want me to help?" She smiled. "No. I just want to make sure no woman in this house is ever treated like a guest again. Not now. Not when I'm gone." When she passed, years later, peacefully, in her sleep, she left behind white heavy checkmark a home she turned into a multi-generational family retreat. White heavy checkmark a fund to support elderly women in abusive homes. White heavy checkmark and a letter from me and my brother. I didn't fight with fire. I fought with roots. I made sure you knew what a home should feel like, not fear, not silence, but respect. A final gift. At her memorial, we planted an almond tree in the backyard. It was her favorite. And beneath it, she asked that one sentence be engraved: "Let no woman ever be locked out of her own life again." They left her outside, in the cold. Called her a guest in her own home. But she didn't scream. Didn't beg. She simply reclaimed her space and built something that would outlive their cruelty. Now, the same home they wanted her out of has become a place women run to, not from. Years later, a quiet legacy. 5 years had passed. The house, no longer just a home. It had become a healing center, known in the community as Angangar, the courtyard home. Every corner of it now echoed not with silence, but with laughter, safety, and tea shared between women who had once been made small. Single mothers, elderly widows, women rebuilding from emotional wounds. Each room bore a photo of Amy, not as a victim, but as a vision. My brother becomes a part of it. To everyone's surprise, my brother volunteered to become a caretaker at the center. He taught carpentry, helped with repairs, and most importantly, listened. He no longer called it our old house. He called it her home. And for the first time in years, he seemed to grow into the man Amy had always believed he could be. The young girl on the porch. One evening, a young girl, maybe 17, arrived crying. She had run away from a home that told her her opinions were too loud, her presence too much. She sat on the same porch where Amy was once locked out. And I remember thinking, she came to the same door, but this time it opened wide. My mother's story had planted roots, and they were still blooming. Months after Amy passed, I found her journal. The last page had no date, just a single paragraph. If they remember me at all, I hope it's not for the rice I warmed, but for the warmth I carried even when they left me in the cold. I was never a guest. I was the soul of that home. The portrait and the words. At the center's entrance now hangs a portrait of her, Amy in a soft shawl, a gentle smile, and jasmine in her hair. Beneath it, engraved, they tried to make her feel like nothing. So she built a place where everyone could feel like everything.